All right, I'm going to call this call this meeting to order of the Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing and regular meeting, October 21st, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. I'm going to do a roll call. Mike Danello.
There.
We got Jonathan Kastner. Alan Parody.
Here.
Dan Reinheimer.
Here.
Marion Stay.
Here.
Alex Strobel.
Here.
All right. And I know Christy chimed in. She's not going to make it. Quickly, I have to find Nancy so I can let her record. All right. So I guess I'll seat Mike Danello in the vacant chair and Alex Strobel in Christie's Stroud seat. With that being said, it looks like we're on to number 3, acceptance of applications. First on the agenda is a special permit for a town use farmers and craft market at 1 Church Street. It's map 57, lot 86. The applicant is Paul Sintowski. He's also sponsored by the town of Deep River. This is just for acceptance, so it's will be put on the next meeting, which is, of course, I didn't have the date in front of me, which will be November 19th.
18th, I think.
18th. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Thank God John's on top of this stuff.
I
All
have a
right.
quick question.
Yep.
Just on the citation,
Mhm.
because they said it was a village mixed use.
Yep.
But they're citing for 2818, which is, I think, village residential use. So I'm not sure if the citation is correct.
Village mixed use.
It's a technicality, but if you're doing a legal notice, those are the things that count.
Okay. Man, my computer does not want to move today. All right, Marion, I can't find it quickly, so I'm assuming when you make the motion to accept this and set that, that's part of your motion to correct that.
Correct. Yes, I make the motion to set the public hearing to November.
All right. Looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Is that Stan?
Alan.
Oh, thanks, Alan. Sorry. All right, Mike? Yeah.
I agree, yes.
Okay. Stan?
Yes.
And Alex?
Yeah. Yes, that sounds good.
Fantastic. All right, we'll see you guys November 18th. Second on the list, text amendment application, section 4.16.8, temporary moratorium on recreational cannabis. Applicant Town of Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission. And let's get that on the screen. And the reason being is we don't have any regulations in place. I mean, John can elaborate on this a little bit, but the basics of this is if we don't put a moratorium in place, they can pretty much open a recreational marijuana place anywhere in town. I mean, I'm sure there's places that they cannot, but as an overall, this makes a lot of sense, so we can get regulations in place and find out if the town actually would want something like this. Anyway, anybody have questions, or does John want to elaborate, or?
Yeah, no, it would just be anywhere that retail would be allowed.
Yep.
There's no massive rush because the state licensing process is still being formed. So nothing is immediately pending, but that gives us precisely the window of opportunity to kind of determine what the town policy ought to be in conjunction with the selectmen and the Economic Development Commission and others.
John, you said retail.
Retail
that also
and production.
Does
And
that
production.
include? That's production.
Yeah, it would be the way that the moratorium language is written would be.
What about industrial area?
Yeah, anything that would be considered a cannabis establishment as defined by state statute.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we're looking.
Alex Strobel here. I just have a question, I guess. How does a moratorium, how is it reversed in the future, say, if the town as a whole decides that this would actually be beneficial to the town?
So this runs out in 6 months.
Oh, okay. I think that's perfectly palatable for everybody. Yeah.
That was pretty much what, just if the whole town was like, you know what, this is gonna turn our town around and we love it, we want it. This just automatically goes away in 6 months.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that definitely eases any frustrations anybody would have. So yeah. All right, good. Thank you.
All right.
And Tony, if I might, I suppose technically, if there was that revelation that the town absolutely wanted this as soon as possible, you could propose another text amendment to reverse this.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to have another public hearing and you'd probably be 4 months down the 6 month road, but you could.
So we could shave 2 months off.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Looking for an acceptance for this, or a motion to accept.
I'll make the motion to
accept.
accept.
That's a pretty good tie there.
Alan can do it. He can
Okay.
make the motion.
All right.
I'll second, though.
Sounds good. Mike,
Agree.
Stan,
Yes.
and Alex.
Yes.
All right. That's that. We also have a late submittal. It's a special permit for Scott Papusha.
Site plan.
Site plan, sorry. For section 4.2535, decimal 35 for rear lots. So let's just accept it and put it on for the November 18th meeting.
You, if I might,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman. So in theory, this is just a site plan. You could address this evening if you wanted. So it's up to you. You could receive it and deal with it on November 18th, but there is no additional public notification required. So if you wanted to add this under new business, you could certainly do so. It's basically just a single residential lot that just happens to be a rear lot.
Right, this is the one that Don brought in, not last meeting, the meeting before, preliminarily.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was a special permit.
No, it's
I
just. a
forgot
site
we
plan.
changed the letters.
So site plan.
Okay, so, discussion?
Can you pull it up or?
Yep. Forgive me if this is going so slow. But it's basically at the end of Witch Hazel, I believe. That they extend the cul-de-sac, or extend the temporary cul-de-sac and be a single family house. Looks like they have Pratt approval. They're just over the acreage. Which it's a.
Mr. Chair, I think there may be a representative from Doan's office.
Is there? I didn't see him pop in.
I don't know. It's not Bob, but I think one of his colleagues.
Oh,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my name's Aaron Schumacher. I'm working with Bob Doan. I'd be happy to run you guys through the project now if you'd like to hear it or later.
absolutely. That stops me from doing it, so please, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so basically we're looking at the address of the property is Stevenstown Road, but the piece we're looking to work on is actually off of Witch Hazel Drive. We're looking to do just one rear lot. The lot would be 2.33 acres, coming off the 74.92 acre piece there. We're looking to propose a 3-bedroom house. Pretty basic driveway, does have some cuts or fills associated with it, but they're pretty minor in the 2 to 4 foot range. Driveway slope will all be under 10%. And basically we've structured the plan so that there could be a future subdivision which would change this from being a rear lot so they would meet the frontage requirement at some point in the future. So, and I'd be happy to address any questions or anything else that you guys have throughout the night.
So you guys want to accept this and act on it later or push it off to November? Looking for a motion either way. Or any more questions or?
The neighbors are all good with this, Tony? I mean, I'm coming in a little at the end of this.
I haven't heard anything from anybody.
It's just a site plan. There's no formal neighbor notification required.
That's the fact, Tony?
Yep.
Okay. Well, if everything meets specs, I'm okay.
All right. Is that a
Just
motion
looking at
to,
elevations here. Elevations.
Tony, I'll make the motion to accept it now.
okay. Thank you, Stan. I'm just looking for a second.
I'll second.
Sounds good. All right, Mike,
I'm good.
okay, Alan,
I'm good.
and Alex.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
So I'm sorry, Mr. So did you receive that and you're going to put it on like new business item C? Or
No.
are you, is this, are you it? This is
That
it?
was my understanding.
Okay.
All right. On to everybody's favorite part of the evening. So we're gonna do the public hearing. It is 7:12. The item on the agenda is a special permit application, two-family dwelling, 61 Main Street. The applicant is Kevin Teskey. See if I get that in front of everybody. And is there anybody here to go over that?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Teskey.
Just want to give us
So,
one more time.
Yeah, so no problem. So I have currently a single family home that's general commercially zoned. I'm surrounded by other multifamily homes, and I want to make this 1 and 2 family with making no major changes whatsoever. Just adding a wall and making a kitchen.
Okay. All right. Anybody from the audience wish to speak for, against, or just neutral about this?
I need to go ahead, recuse because I am the neighbor to the south of this property, this proposed multifamily, but I would like to speak just on behalf of a community member, if I can.
That's always tricky. I don't.
All right, then I won't.
Okay.
It means it's neither here nor there for me, but I
Okay,
just need to recuse regardless.
yes, please.
Was there, I'm sorry, Alex, was there, I don't believe there was anything submitted in writing from the neighbors. Is that correct?
It's submitted in writing. I have not submitted, nor do I
Okay.
have issue with any of this.
No, I'm sorry, but the neighbor you were going to speak on behalf of.
No, he is.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to speak on behalf of anybody. I was simply going to make a a statement, centered around the community as a whole.
Oh.
That was all. I represent no one and
Okay.
speak for no one.
Okay, I was just verifying that I didn't miss any submitted testimony.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Nope.
Okay, great, thanks.
Right. Anybody else? All right.
So, Tony, this is Alan. Just want to clarify with the regulation change that this commission made prior.
Yep.
This is entirely conforming.
Correct. Yeah, it's a special permit. So he had to go through a public hearing, but yes, it's totally conforming.
If I might, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, fire away.
for the record, Kevin, can you confirm that you are on public sewer lines as opposed to a private septic system?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay, so no B100A or septic approval is required.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. We go, anybody from the public? If not, looking for any comments from the commission? Discussion, motion to approve, deny, where are we at?
Tony, with a conversion like this,
Yep.
Who does the inspection on, just to make sure that, Kevin's new tenant or tenants will be safe?
You mean like the building part?
Correct.
Yeah, the building official has to go in and check that out.
I've been in contact with him already.
Okay,
I've been
good.
trying to make sure that I follow rules so I don't go either wrong on either side. I don't want to be like wrong on a single family if you said no. I don't want to be wrong on a 2 family if you said yes. So
And I would also note, Mr. Chair, that as it would now be classified as a multifamily, by state statute, the building inspector has to inspect the premises every year. for compliance.
That's true.
Thanks, John.
All right. Looking for a motion or more discussion?
I think I'll make the motion to accept it.
All right.
Actually, at this point, it would just be to close the public hearing.
Yep, sorry. I didn't know who that was anyway. So yeah, looking for a motion to close the public hearing, and you guys got to state your names. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with who is speaking.
I believe that was Stan.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
I
me.
thought so.
Motion to close the public hearing, then we can follow up with the action.
Okay, looking for a second.
I'll second
Sec-
for whoever else.
All right, who was the actual second?
Mike, second.
All right,
There
so
you go.
Alan,
Yes.
Stan, I'm sorry, Stan, you made the motion. Marion,
Yes,
and I'll vote to close the public hearing since Alex is out. That's that. Okay, audience of citizens. This gives you guys the opportunity, if you aren't here, to speak about anything that is not on this agenda. So it's reach out to you guys, speak now or forever hold your peace. Anybody going once, twice, 3 times? All right, on to approval of minutes. So I see we have the August 19th ones on here. We also have the September ones. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read both, but we'll start with the August 19th.
I move to approve.
All right, look for a second.
I'll second that, Tony.
All right,
It's Alan, by the way.
okay, thank you. Mike
Yes,
and Stan,
Yes.
Alex, I'm assuming you're back.
Yes.
All righty. Now, the September minutes. Everybody have a chance to eyeball those? Any corrections? If not, looking for a motion.
Tony, I'll make a motion to approve. This is Alan.
Thank you, Ellen. Looking for a second?
I'll
Mike,
second
second.
Stan.
I think Mike beat you to that one.
Sorry.
Stan,
Good.
Marion,
Yes,
and Alex.
Yes.
You? All right, new business, zoning map discussion. Of course, I did not bring that up. For some reason, it's not in my thing, so you gotta give me a second. John, you wanna ramble away while I look for the actual map? Thanks.
Well, this is in regards to some potential input in terms of unifying several of the village zones and kind of fixing some of the small clusters of zoning designations. I think this kind of came up as we were talking about the plan of conservation and development, as well as some of the issues surrounding Kevin Teskey's application, when we realized that there were some oddities, that, there was a series of multifamily properties along the north side of Main Street that were zoned general commercial, but were in fact multifamily. And so there was some general discussion about to simplify some of the zoning designation. Tony, I have it in my email inbox if you want me to bring something up.
Yeah, that's, if you would, I thought I had it ready to go, but apparently not. Sorry, guys, I was not on top of this one tonight.
Can you see my screen?
Now,
Yes.
yes,
All right, so this is what we're talking about,
that's what we're talking about.
sort of upside down. I can.
I'll just turn my computer around, John.
There you go.
Sorry, that's,
there we go.
Nice job.
Nice recovery there, John. Thank you. So we had sat down and talked about this a little bit, maybe expanding the commercial zone and the industrial zones out a little bit, make it a little more uniform, because we do have all these little tiny pockets of districts that are very close to one another. like we have the village industrial, which is right next to this little yellow one that is another village zone, and the village mixed use, which is very close to village industrial, village commercial. So just, it's nothing that's gonna happen tonight, but it is something that we definitely need to start looking into, which, as we get into
When I'm on.
another thing that's on the agenda, we'll get into that, but just preliminary discussions or thoughts, or has anybody actually looked into this?
For what? Some sort of.
Town, planning zoning.
Guys? I'm getting a lot of background talking.
Trying to get rid of.
Right. Hearing none, I'm assuming.
So, Tony,
Yeah,
have we established a process for this? Will there be opportunity for public input? What is the process of rejiggering these lines and zones?
I'm honestly, if we do change anything on here, it would have to go to a public hearing. So the town would have input. But
And
again-
so if I might, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, fire away.
So, yeah, no, I think a couple of things would have to happen. Procedurally, we would have to go to public hearing because we would be affecting individual properties. We would also want to notify those folks that their parcels are being proposed for redesignation. Administratively, the other thing that we would probably want to do is sort of take a look at the use table. So if for instance, we were looking at, say, unifying village mixed use and village commercial along this corridor here, if you can see my mouse, we would want to take a look at what uses are in village mixed use, but are not in village commercial, for instance, or vice versa, and figure out, which ones, if we should just fold them all together or if some uses should drop out. So when we shuffle the deck, it's something harmonious. And then, we would have that discussion during a public hearing process.
In theory, John, that sounds great. Do you really think it could happen?
That I would say is 100% up to this commission. It absolutely could, but this is exactly your authority.
Yes, we'd have to go through those. Like you said, that now that we have the cheat sheets, I think it makes it a little easier. You can just lay those next to each other and go, all right, this is allowed, this isn't allowed. But I think if I had a magic wand and this could go the best way possible, I think maybe start at one end and work our way through this. Looking at, we're not a huge town, so you could probably look at quite a few of these. What the uses actually are existing, what we think would fit there. And, start making a list.
So what I could certainly do if you wanted to talk about it next meeting and I think probably the easiest change is probably the one I mentioned, which is merging village mixed use and village commercial. I could for next meeting come up with, a comparison table of which uses do not intersect. And then we could have a discussion about, do we want to exclude it from both or include it in both essentially? And proceed there. I think then we can also, sort of have a discussion a little bit to the north if this little tiny section of general commercial ought to be, R30 as it is to the rear or maybe continuing the village mixed use. But yeah, I think, this is bite size, I would say.
Right.
But I could queue up that discussion for next meeting if that was the commission's desire.
We were talking about it 3 months ago, so I think so. Especially like you said, there's 6 parcels in the general commercial district down there.
Yeah, John, I would love to, you obviously, you have some ideas and I would love to hear them. Because I looked at it and to me, it was a little mind boggling to think that existing property owners would want to change what they have because of what they don't know and what might scare them.
Yeah, and obviously during the public process, we would want to be very clear about, and again, I think this is not about taking things away. I think it's just
Right.
about, clarifying things. And I would suspect that, well, it would only be in the case, if someone was already doing something that wasn't allowed, if there's something in the village commercial that's allowed that it's not in village mixed use or vice versa, but someone was doing that, they would be pre-existing non-conforming and it wouldn't affect them.
Right.
But yeah, we would have to do this process of explaining it to the public.
Yeah. So Tony, what's the long-term goal of accomplishing something like this? What's the benefit? What are the pros?
So right now the pros are, I think we have 12 different zones. So it's just ease of use for planning and zoning. It's also ease of use for people who come in to town looking to open a new business. Right now somebody comes into the general commercial district looking to buy, and I'll pick on Jonathan Kastner's piece. It's, one of, like I said, 6 pieces. And he's one parcel away from village mixed use where he may be able to do 3 other things, like a lawyer's office or a doctor's office. Where the general commercial, he's stuck with, elderly housing or, opening up a brewery, which may not be, it doesn't really fit his building.
And I was going to take a ride, Tony, down to the which is the industrial code?
The village industrial is the purple, which is high 9, and the green, actually I don't know what they do there, but the green industrial building that's back there, almost on Winter Avenue.
And Winchester is where?
Right, Winchester is right. Oh, you can't see me. It's the big purple piece right next to the blue Deep River. So yeah, whatever you have that,
Yep.
That's it. I know because I live across the street.
Yeah, the industrial use on Bridge Street, the I don't know what that is, a factory or whatever.
Yeah, it's what is it, Smith & Wesson now?
It's Smith & Wesson now, but there's another factory on the next parcel.
Yep.
And that seems to have a loading dock off of Spring Street. And then across the street on Spring, I think it's kind of a marine use. It looks like they have boats back there.
Yes. Yep.
Whether it's repairing or what, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's,
So
I mean,
are all of the VID lots currently being utilized?
as industrial, some we'd have to look at.
I mean, is that something that if it's not already in use, can it be changed so that something doesn't come in that a neighbor does not want? I mean,
Yes, yeah, and like John was saying, so you could change the whole village industrial to residential if you wanted to, but there's pre-existing uses there. You cannot take those away.
no, I understand that, of course.
Yeah.
But if some of those lots are not being currently used and would not be grandfathered in, is that something that would benefit the town from a quality of life issue? Not to have another,
Industrial use.
yeah, something come in that's gonna upset, the balance of quality of life of the rest of the neighbors.
I think that's something you would discuss, or we would discuss.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to know really what was in those parcels now. But in general, I agree that some of this should be simplified a little bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, if John's willing to do that, put a checklist together of what doesn't jive in those 2 areas, we can start there, and like I said, we can expand out.
So Tony, with the fact that our plan of conservation is pretty much aged out at this point, and I think we're due to revisit that and do a more comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it behoove us to look at the bigger picture and get input from economic development and all of the vested boards and commissions in town if we're going to be looking at rejiggering zones, the map, as well as refining uses. I understand that we can make some changes and make some early clarification, but I think we're really overdue for a more comprehensive planning effort. And I think that this needs to be put in context. If we're going to be making the effort to, merge zones or modify allowable uses in zones, the commission in the past has gotten themselves into some issues of doing this piecemeal, and that's why we have this existing zoning map, that there were some decisions that were made to solve problems, but not driven by a more comprehensive plan. I think we're overdue for a comprehensive plan. We talk about, of potentially merging or redefining these village districts, but we really haven't had a revision to the POCD since those were created. So I think it's important to kind of revisit what the intent was of those village zones and determine if they're working, and then tinker with them. So I'm not against the simplification, but I'm absolutely for something that's
Part of a bigger
driven
plan.
from.
So if I can just throw in what my thought on this. So if John comes up with this and we have, let's say 6 things that need to be melded together to combine these 2 zones. If that's our plan, we could then send it to EDC for their input, and say, hey, are we missing something here? Do you guys have uses you're after? That kind of thing. But I also think this isn't going to be the last change to this. I think us trying to simplify it isn't going to be the last touch. So, making a few less zones, ultimately isn't the end of this. I think just because we do this today or next week or next month, a year down the road, this may evolve a little more. It may expand more. We may find uses that we have to add, especially with EDC doing, they're reaching out and I can't remember what they were doing now. But anyway, it's without EDC's input. And again, I'm sure the selectmen will have some say where they want something. But that's my kick at this. But I think starting with John's, list of what doesn't meld right now is a step forward. It's like, this isn't going to happen overnight either.
I
Crickets.
tend to agree with
So
Alan that.
okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
You're the commissioner, Mary, not the.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I tend to agree with Alan that it would be good to go over the plan of development and do that. But I also know that that's a whole year's worth of work. And it may even involve special meetings because it's really difficult to do it at the end of a regular meeting. And you don't really want to kind of sit through kibitzing about something when you've got a room full of people who have got their applications that they want to do. We had sent out letters. I think John had sent out letters at the beginning of the summer to various commissions and entities in town. Did we ever get any response?
Gotten very, very little response. I think I got something from the Historical Society, and that's it. So, and they had it typewritten, which was nice. It's very on brand.
It might be good to wait to EDC. I can't remember exactly what they're doing either, but I think they're polling a variety of people and looking at zones and things just to see what they do, how that comes out. And it's supposed to be done pretty soon. I'm asking, I thought it was.
But so that's kind of what I was, go ahead, I'm sorry. Somebody else,
No, so I was just gonna, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
fire away.
so the EDC is doing a survey and I think it's, they're just about wrapped up and they're gonna present results. And one of the questions relevant to our previous discussion was about recreational cannabis. So there should be some input from there. But about this particular effort, I think this first step to sort of take a look at what the differences are between, say, village mixed use and village commercial, I think is a really important first step to either process, either this commission sort of dealing with it internally or opening up some sort of broader discussion. Because I think, none of us know off the back of our, the top of our head, what the differences are and what might have been the origin of the distinction between those two. And so I think it's if we're going to have a discussion with EDC, I think EDC's first question would be, well, what's the difference? And I think we ought to understand that ourselves before we convene that discussion. So I think let's see, my recommendation to this commission right now would be, let's take a look next month. What are those differences? And then that can shed some light on maybe what the direction of this discussion should be.
All right. I mean,
So perhaps could also involve a discussion with the Design Advisory Board, because that is one of the primary differences between these zones, is that a village district, in fact, has that requirement and that additional potential enforcement of design considerations, which is outside the purview of zoning. So it was a very significant, very deliberate distinction. And I think that that requires some in-depth discussion with the Design Advisory Board. And again, that goes back to the POCD and the mission to retain the small town character. So again, it's a pretty unique provision, but as I understand it, that is the primary distinction. Again, to merge these zones, we lose that that distinction and potentially, undermine that possibility of design review. So we need to have the discussion. Is that working? Is that something we want to retain? And is it something that we want to continue to enforce?
that's a great point. My thought was never to not use them. It was to expand them. So they would actually gain, the parcels that actually aren't under their purview at the moment. But again, so I guess at this point, we're really just are we asking John to put comparables together or not?
Yeah, I think we should continue this discussion. I agree that this is important to do. But again, I think that let's bring the information and the analysis evaluation forward first, and then establish a plan of action.
Okay. We don't think we need a motion on this. If everybody agrees, we're just getting information. Okay. On to, I'm sorry, if everybody is done, I'm just gonna move on. Right
Yep,
here.
go ahead, Tim. I'm okay.
Item B, accessory apartment regulation discussion. John, I know you're prepared for this one.
So, well, as this commission probably knows, I think we've talked about it before. Public Act 2129, which was passed by the state legislature back in June, creates a new mandate essentially for local zoning regulations to permit accessory apartments as of right in any residential district. And that law will take effect as of January 1st, 2023. The catch is that municipalities, should they choose, can opt out of that as of right accessory apartment requirement via a public hearing and 2/3 vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission and a public hearing and 2/3 vote of the Board of Selectmen. So there is an opt-out provision. Either way, it's worth, I believe, this commission deciding what it should do, what it wants to do relative to accessory apartments in its residential districts, which are generally, I think most residential districts do allow them by site plan, which would be a little bit in conflict with the new statute, which would have it be an administrative process, which is to say through the zoning officer only, myself. And there are some additional things that are different about Deep River's regulations. For instance, the current regulations, I believe, do not allow detached
Correct.
accessory units unless that building has been unless that detached unit has structure has been in place for more than 10 years. And so there's some nuance. So similar to the zoning map discussion we just had, I would propose to do something which I've done for a couple of other towns I work with, is basically present a comparison between the new statutory requirements and Deep River's current zoning regulations relative to accessory apartments, and point out areas of discontinuity. And we can talk about it and see if this commission feels strongly about its current approach, and if so, if it wants to proceed with an opt-out, or if the changes are relatively minor, in such a way that we could tweak our own regulations to conform with the new state procedure. So I would just propose that this gets shifted to sort of a front burner discussion over the next couple of months.
I agree, John.
Yep. I like that you're doing all the work too, John. This is even better.
Well, so we'll get to that when we talk about our extended proposal, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I would propose I could come up with that comparison by next meeting as well.
All right. So anybody have any questions, or I'm just gonna move on to the next item. All right. I have a question about our arrangement here, John. The Papusha special site plan, I gotta stop saying that. Is that under new business or old business? Where did we stick that? Do you remember?
I thought you put it as 7C, new
Okay, I
business.
thought so. I penciled it in there, but I wasn't sure if I was correct on it. All right. So item C, back to section 4.25.35 rear lot for Mr. Papusha. And anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? If not, looking for a motion. I know we've seen this thing a couple of times now.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, looking for a second.
I'll second it, Stan.
Thank you, Stan. Mike,
Great.
Alan,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
All right, so you guys are approved. All right, on to old business. Special permit application, 2-family dwelling, 61 Main Street, applicant Kevin Teskey. All right, any discussion? If not, just looking for a motion.
Motion to approve. Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
I'll second, Stan.
Thank you, Stan. Mike,
Agree.
Marion,
Agree.
and Alex.
Agree.
All right, looks like you passed. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Okay, on to site plan application for a rear lot, 60 Spring Street, applicant Henry Louder. This came in last month, and I thought it needed to go to public hearing, which it does not. And this is the one that's off of Spring Street. They came in with a real map. If I can ever scroll to the bottom here. Okay, I lied. I thought it was the last page. But this is the one on Spring Street. We asked them to do a real survey, and they did submit one, which I didn't see in here.
I thought we gave them the go ahead.
We did, we didn't vote on it. We asked them to bring back a map. Can you guys see it?
No.
Okay, let me share.
I
I
have
got
it.
it off of the computer, but it's so tiny and so hard to see.
Yeah. So, can you see it now? Might have
Yeah.
shown up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they did come forward. They actually have a survey. But yeah, it was just a simple, rear lot subdivision. Looking for, any questions? If not, looking for a discussion or a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right, for a second.
Because
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marion.
no, after the second, I was just gonna, I believe John would have to approve this anyway because, except, well, no, they connect to the town sewer. So, so the setbacks and all of that, he'd have to approve.
Yep.
But in theory, I think it's fine.
Right,
Okay.
when they have their final house location.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so somebody did second. I didn't catch who it was. I'm
I
sorry.
did, Stan.
Thanks, Dan. Mike,
Agree.
Alan,
Yes.
and Alex.
I agree.
So you guys are good to go. All right. Next is the Plan of Conservation and Development, as we were just discussing. So clearly, we do need to look into that, like everybody's said. We haven't looked at it in quite some time. This is it's going to be a long-term thing, like everybody knows that it's going to be a year-long or more process. And clearly, we're going to need economic development and everybody's involvement. But with that being said, I think when economic development survey does come in, that's going to be a great stepping stone. But I don't think it's going to cover everything we're interested in, so we might want to do that also. And that's a bigger involvement on John's part too. So we'll just keep working him to death. Anything you want to add to that, John, or anybody else have questions or?
No, I think we'll have to get ourselves organized around a more formal process and schedule. I believe it's 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's 2024.
Yeah.
All right. If not, just throwing that out there, let everybody know, but I think that's pretty much covers everything at this point. That being said, I'm going to move on to reports. CEO.
Okay. Well, so not that much else to report. I would note for anyone either in the audience or was curious why Spruce Ledge public hearing was not continued. I received a note from the owners of Spruce Ledge Farm withdrawing their application and saying that they will be resubmitting probably in the springtime after they address some family things. Otherwise, things remain in process. We have a new land use clerk, land use assistant, Terry, who is in the building office on Mondays and Wednesdays, kind of learning the ropes. There nothing particularly extraordinary issued. Several standard zoning permits, a couple of single family houses on prior subdivisions. But mostly things like sheds and decks and single family residence down on the south end of Main Street recently. So it's steady, nothing extraordinary.
Quickly, I'm going to pick your brain about the GIS. I know we got somebody. It's being implemented as we speak. Yes.
In theory.
That's what I thought.
I believe there was a little back and forth between the first selectman and the vendor. Which is CAI is the new GIS vendor. I think we're under contract. But if not, we're awfully close. And Robin, the assessor, and I, literally every time we see Angus, we ask him the question about the contract. So that will not fall through the cracks.
All right. I'm gonna.
Oh, I have a question.
Shoot.
Actually, I have a question. Yeah. And it's about Spruce Ledge. Because we had gotten that letter that said they only have 3 acres. And you need 5 acres, if I remember correctly. I don't have the stuff in front of me, to do what they wanted to do.
That's it. Yep.
And so, how can we encourage them to come back when they don't have the correct
Right. Well,
acreage?
I think we probably, and I haven't seen I don't think I've looked at the documentation for the acreage of the property. You know, they represented on the application that they had 5 acres. What I would want to do at the point in which they are looking to resubmit, we would want to sort of do that verification and inform them of the nature of the regulations before we let them
Okay.
submit it.
I was gonna say, this may be also one of those things we may want to look at. This- Farms are changing, some of them are smaller.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
But it may
yeah,
be something to look at.
the
That's all.
the agritourism and activities section of the regs might be an appropriate point of focus.
All right. Anybody else gonna hit John up for anything?
Tony, do we still have a zoning enforcement officer?
Yeah, John is our zoning enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And
Sorry to
amongst
say.
other things.
Yes, he's a kind of catch-all. He does everything. With that, anybody else want to harass John? We'll get back to him in a little bit. Just be aware.
But if Mike, if you have ideas for somebody else who might be more appropriate, we're all ears.
Oh, boy. Anything from the attorney?
No, although I will say, I could have mentioned in my report, we've asked the attorney, you may recall, there'd been a lot of back and forth about the nature of our authority to regulate the Valley Railroad activities. And we've been seeking clarification from DEP about the nature of the state property and their lease with the Valley Railroad Company. I'd received no formal correspondence from the DEP after several attempts, and so we've asked the attorney to draft a letter, on official looking attorney letterhead, and to hopefully get the DEP to pay attention and write us a letter clarifying their position that they expressed, verbally to myself and Mike D'Amato probably close to a year ago, but have never put that into writing. So we're hoping to get that in writing. So the attorney's working on that.
I do have a question for you, John. Now we're up to back up to the CEO thing. So at the August meeting, one of the members of EDC was questioning all the temporary signs that are flying around. So it's not a question, but it's just a statement. We have 4 ice cream shops now that all have, hey, we're at grand opening, some kind of thing. Just a heads up. There's, that's out there.
Yeah.
On the regulations committee, there's nothing tonight. We do know we're doing plan of conservation development, combining stuff, and John's gonna get stuff together for us. As chairman, I have nothing for you. And budget, I was gonna bring up the letter that, I'm gonna butcher the name. Is it Tai Chi or Tai Chi?
Neither. It's Taiki.
Taiki. See, I'm glad I asked. So John's company wrote a letter, kind of expanding on, because we've been harassing them we need a planner. We only have them for enforcement at the moment. Could you get us something that we can kind of float around if we're good with it? Expanding their long-range planning part of this, again, to address zoning regulations and plan of conservation development. So they put that out there. I thought they did a good job. Looking for input from you guys, see if you think they should add anything, take anything out of there. Thoughts?
I'll note that we focused this primarily on regulations at this point, as a start to do some cleanup. But I think with an eye looking over the next couple of years to take a broader role in the plan of conservation and development.
All right.
So with the intent of really achieving all the broader objectives, the POCD, the refinement of regulations and the zoning map, et cetera. I guess my concern with the proposal is that it doesn't establish a longer term budget to attain all those things. it should, I think it should either be more comprehensive and look at establishing a planning budget, which is beyond the zoning enforcement, because it's not something that this town, I think, has addressed or retained somebody specifically to do that planning, especially in a long time. So I think it either needs to be much bigger and broader, or it needs to be specific to some near-term tasks, because I think that this is really going to the Board of Finance. And I think we owe it to them to offer them a kind of a plan to give them some expectations of specifically what this is going to achieve, or what our goal is longer term, so they know what's coming. I don't want to go in and ask for this money and then get shut down when we kind of roll out the bigger needs of the town. So that's my concern. I think the proposal alludes to some specific items that have been identified by commissioners. So we either identify those specifically and say that is a task that requires this specific effort and in time frame, or we really begin to look at establishing a planning budget, which is long range.
So just to kind of narrow this down a little bit. So you want so right now they have this, for almost like a year worth of work. You want to expand this out for a couple, like probably 2 years or 3 years to do the POCD? Is that kind of what you're getting at, Alan?
Yeah, I reading this, I think that there's a couple of objectives into this, and one is a regulations task, and one is a planning task. The planning task is something that we do undertake periodically and make a very significant effort. I don't want this to get compared to kind of the request to do the EDC study, which is, yes, give us, we want $7,000 to do this study, and then, and that's a standalone effort. I think that this is part of a whole. And I think we need to be honest that there's a significant effort that is necessary. So I would like to see a bigger proposal and a more explicit proposal. Among the tasks we need to see, beyond the uses and the delineation of the map, there's been a discussion over the past couple of years about parking requirements. So that it's something that I think needs to be addressed in a larger format, and then refined down into become a refinement in our regulations. And I think that there's other items like that need to be addressed. So I'd like to get that list of specific tasks that will be addressed and accomplished, delineated. And I do think it's a bigger effort than what's proposed here. So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Anybody want to elaborate on that, or expand on that, or add to it, or take away from it? I mean, do you guys agree with Alan? We should expand this, or?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the total definition of expansion is, but I agree with Alan. I mean, this EDC report that's coming out, I mean, it's only going to be worth what we as the town do with it.
Right.
And that could, in fact, change a lot of the dynamics. I think I definitely see holes in our current zoning regs that allow people or builders or developers to get away with things that I think we're fortunate they have not yet. But John obviously has the capability of developing a more intensive plan based upon a new town plan of what the residents want. I'm kind of going around in circles, but
Yeah.
I guess that on that, in recent history, started to have these meetings with EDC and planning and conservation and in the wetlands. So we're seeing some initiatives or some, reports pending on economic development. At the same time, we need to balance that with, some analysis, some evaluation, and consideration of conservation. The efforts of the land trust, and again, all these things. We've got the economic picture, and we got the stewardship requirements, and then there's a lot of quality of life issues. I think that just need to be pulled together. I think it's planning and zoning that should be taking the lead on. I think we have the potential horsepower to do it with Tyke. And I think we should be bold in what we're proposing. I really fear that if we go in and say, okay, we'd like $10,000 to address some regulations issues that have come out of a planning process, and then that's what we get for the next few years. I think we need to warn them that, this is a part of what we need to be doing.
The last budget meeting, I did kind of warn them what was coming, so they're, I think I almost got lynched at that meeting, so they're expecting something slightly bigger.
Yeah, we'll let them lynch you as long as we get something.
It wouldn't be the first time, so. All
Take one
right,
for the
so
town.
I think, I think John's got more, he's got his work cut out for him.
John, any input on what we just said?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I agree very much in principle with Alan and Marion that if zoning regulations, tweaks to that, and if we're going to do something sort of comprehensive, really should flow from a newly established set of goals and principles from the Plan of Conservation and Development. I very strongly believe that. I think that the trick is that just in terms of budgeting, our conversations with Tony and with First Selectman McDonald are sort of cautious about dropping whatever it's going to be, $30,000-$40,000 to kind of do a plan of conservation and development right now, and we're trying to look to space it out. And maybe if you're spending a small amount now, there's some low-hanging fruit we can deal with, some obvious things we can deal with, and sort of clear those decks. But yeah, I definitely agree with the principle that we should start from the plan. What is the town's vision, and then flow from there. But procedurally, it just is a bigger undertaking.
Yeah, that term low hanging fruit is kind of cute, but it doesn't solve a lot of long-term problems. When we have an education budget that's at 70% now of our tax base, and it's only going to go up if we don't start offsetting that with a real solid plan.
Right.
Well, if it's any consolation, you're losing school age population like a stone.
That's true.
But the schools aren't getting smaller, and the heat
No.
bill isn't getting smaller.
That's true.
School buses.
But they can't.
I was going to say, this is going to involve probably a lot of input from the planning commission. And I think we're going to need special meetings. I mean, that we just deal with this.
Yep.
We're not trying to plug it in with applications, whether it's, an extra meeting a month or every couple months. To do a good plan of development takes a lot of work.
Yeah, we had a regs committee last 2 years ago, and we kind of paused it because we're doing more of this little tiny fill-in stuff where you've got, all right, well, we'll have 6 pieces of property, and it doesn't work, and it's not part of this P O C D, so. We probably will have to get back to that. But,
John, just a quick, John, one more question, John. You've obviously been around this type of conversation and the inherent problems with a small town trying to find its sea legs. And if we had a big bucket of money, what would be the best plan of action for the town?
Yeah, I would say, all things.
Externally or internally?
You know, do you mean to do this process externally or internally?
Correct.
Well, I think, I mean, we, you know, we're kind of, you know, what my company is sort of a blend between the external and the internal.
I was just gonna say that.
We're sort of
that.
we're sort of embedded, but we do this work, you know, in towns that we don't necessarily, you know, staff week to week. We write plans for it. Like we wrote the City of Middletown's Plan of Conservation and Development a couple of years ago, and I'm in process of writing Old Saybrook's plan, sort of chapter by chapter. They have sort of an unusual process of writing it. So, you know, this is sort of work, and frankly, you know, the money element is a way of buying the time necessary to do the work, right? And so the money that the town already pays us is for the most part taken up with the administrative tasks of zoning. And obviously, you know, there is, I think we're pretty efficient at it, and there are opportunities to help out in other ways, working on a grant with Angus, or working on, you know, GIS stuff, or working on some reg changes that are more planning in nature. So if the town wanted to continue with our services, you know, and was able to plunk down a larger chunk of money that would, you know, buy some more immediate time, then that would be the way to go. And obviously, you know, there are other very qualified, you know, planning firms out there that the town could use, or we could bring in to devote additional staff, you know, someone with a different, more charming face to kind of lead those discussions than Mike or myself. But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to, you know, do we have the budget to spend the time?
But on the flip side, do you, by not finding the budget money, are you just stumbling for the next 20 years, and 20 years from now, we're having the same conversation when we've lost opportunities?
And then I think it would be, in absence of that, I mean, it would be, you know, probably Mike and I trying to pull these things together in the gaps in our space, you know, like, so in the last couple of months, Alan and Marion and Tony and I, as well as along with Jonathan, you know, got together at a couple of Wednesday mornings when I happened to be at town hall. And so we have some of these focused discussions. You know, we could sort of set up a long schedule of that, but I think, you know, the less time the town can buy, the more time that you guys as commissioners will have to spend in you know, putting in the elbow grease to run the process. And you know, commissions have done that. Like you know, I did a very, very cheap plan for the town of Brooklyn, Connecticut back 10 years ago, because they said, no, we essentially want to write this ourselves, and we just sort of need a little bit of coordination. And good for them, you know.
So just, I mean, I'm gonna throw some accolades or, you know, praise at John here. So it just in what I do, I do see John quite often in a lot of other towns. A lot of places hire them to do planning consulting because they're very good at it. I mean, even a couple of the COGs have hired them. So I think they're definitely the right people to do this. You know, we finally got them here as planning or zoning consultants, and I think the planning part is definitely up their alley. They definitely the right people. I can just quickly, I remember the first meeting we had with the town, and it didn't go so well, and I mean, clearly it's turned around. You know,
this is the one maybe 3 years ago.
Yes.
Kathy Jefferson still there? Yeah.
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 But the town has totally turned around. I mean, even the selectmen are like, these guys are fantastic. So I think they're definitely the right people. One more budget item, if you guys, unless you want to continue on this, one more thing before it escapes my mind again. All right.
I won't joke.
I was just wondering if, in light of, well, in light of what Alan said,
Mhm.
maybe you could at least say project approach phase 1.
Yeah,
So you're hinting that this is ongoing. And maybe at time, just seem to elevate the plan of conservation development language just a little bit more. Although under regulatory analysis, I don't know, just rework that a tad so that the plan of conservation development comes out a little stronger. I agree what you said about, tweaking things, because it's easy and it is very difficult trying to balance things. And I think you do a great job with 6 hours a week. I can't imagine
right.
trying to do even just the regular stuff in 6 hours. So I think it's kind of, I don't know what the word is, on the town to really recognize that they're getting a good deal at this point, and they can't continue down that road. It's like penny wise and pound foolish. You just, you need to set aside time to do this and to look at it, because in a way we're at a crossroads.
Well, one thing I think we need to be able to express when we go to Board of Finance, or when we just discuss this in a broader context, present to the selectmen or have the selectmen endorse this, is that it's not a matter of can we afford this. The real issue is we can't afford not to do this.
That's
You
exactly
see the
right.
towns around us that are comprehensive planning, and we're not keeping up with that.
That's
It's a necessity. And I think maybe what we need to do in the proposal is actually identify the deliverable that's intended here and begin to illustrate the benefit. Because I think that there are substantial economic benefits to doing this. There is a return on this investment. It's not just a lost leader. That was when economic development put forward their proposal just to do a study. The thing that was missing from that was, what are we going to get out of this? It was a matter of saying, well, this is the cost, and then we'll have the information. I want to know what that information is going to result in. Is that going to result in a new commercial base? Or is that, there's got to be a return on that investment. And I think that what we're embarking on has a very significant return on investment. And part of it's going to be the economic portion of it. Part of it's going to be the conservation, and part of it is going to be in operations, and in clarity and how the town operates. That's on the regulation side. But I can't underestimate how important this is for the town, because the towns around us are making significant moves on a planning side. And Tony, to your point, yes, we've retained these guys for zoning enforcement. To date, we have not made a commitment for this town to push forward the planning effort. It's been absent.
You cut out, Alan. I am gonna. Yeah, he's gone. I was gonna. I came into this thinking we're doing all right, but these guys just spun me the other way. I do think we need to do this for multiple years. So we have it for next year, through next year, but maybe a 2-year plan is probably better. Marion's kind of pushed me over the edge there.
I agree with Marion. This is phase
right. With that being said, I mean, you'd see any downfall to that, John, or?
So to basically take this as a, all right, let's do this as an update to the plan of conservation and development, and then maybe chunk it in half so that it's a 2-year digestible effort.
Yeah, keep this and elaborate on this and expand this out to do the whole POCD. So maybe it's like an over 2-year thing. If that's doable on your end, but I do think they're right. We haven't done planning and we are falling behind. So.
But we also have to do the rezoning. That's the thing. I mean, we have to do both.
But that is in here. That's what I'm saying. We have to stretch it out over 2 years to do the whole.
Yep.
If
And
they can.
cut this fee, it's to, identify this as augmentation of the tasks that we need to do. And this, that we have, so we're allocating some fee to get these specific tasks, but we're acknowledging that there are tasks to follow. These are the first steps. It's the,
No, I don't disagree with you guys. So with that, like I said, John, unless you don't want to do it, I think that's the plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, you all the checks have cashed so far, so we're happy to keep at it.
And we should all show up to the finance committee.
That sounds good to me.
When this is being proposed. Never underestimate a group going before a commission as a group. And maybe even trying to acknowledge that we want to see what EDC has said and also incorporate any suggestions that they may have. It's lobbying it's just lobbying AO1, so.
Yeah.
Alan, is he?
It's keep cutting in and out. I think he's bad reception.
Do we want to, I mean, do we want to sort of stick a pin in this? Like Mike and I can refine it, but do we want to wait and see what EDC's report looks like? Or
Do we know when that's due?
I don't know specifically. I had thought it was soon. Maybe it'll be after the elections. Yeah,
I
but
think we should.
I mean, the task is going to be the same either way. I suppose it's just a different bit of information at the start.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll send Mike back to the drawing board.
So, no, we've got Mike aggravated. So just quickly, I gotta pick your brain, John. Is anything come of doing a hybrid meeting? I know people hate Zoom meetings or they love them. Either way, people do want. Hey, when are we gonna have something at a town hall?
In terms of the technology?
Yeah. Do we have
That's
anything?
yeah.
No.
Angus is the where that is Angus, I believe, has the specs for the technology and needs to bid it, or he needs to compile the specs and then bid it. It's another one of these things that's in process.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll stay after that. The good news is that Chester had been in sort of that same boat, that they're sort of like, oh yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
They actually seem to be making progress on it, so we can use that as an opportunity to shame Angus into doing the same.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Anybody have anything else to add to the budget? If not, I'm gonna try and get to the end of this. All right, payment of bills. Anybody hiding any bills back there? John, Nancy?
Nope, I don't have any. Nancy?
Well, she didn't say anything, so I'm gonna assume none. With that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Accept the motion to adjourn.
All right, Mike, second?
Second.
Who seconded? All right, Alan?
yes.
I'm assuming Stan that you second that, and then Marion,
Yes.
Alex?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys. We'll see you guys next month. Everybody have a good night.